Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in. This month I'm going to dive into the Bilge Rats Weekender, go over some fixes and doubloon balancing changes coming soon. I'll talk about the recent Doubloon Reset that took place in April, and then wrap up with some nice game health improvements coming in this month's update. So firstly, I just wanted to do a quick wrap up following the big Doubloon Reset back in April, as a small number of players had issues that led to us doing follow-up work. For the vast majority of our players, this went as planned, and after logging into the game for the first time, they found their doubloons reset to the intended balance. A small number of players jumping into the game shortly after the update, however, found their old doubloon balances had been retained, and some, as you can expect, went straight to the stores to buy the new items ahead of everyone else. While this was a small number of players, we didn't feel it was fair for them to get the jump on everyone else who was starting the doubloon journey from scratch. But this was clearly an issue on our side, so we needed a solution that didn't directly penalise these players either. So for these affected players, their doubloon wallets were reset as originally intended, any items purchased from Larinna or Duke Shop were then removed from their accounts, and then any legitimately earned doubloons were then given back. This give back included any doubloons they had earned while appearing above the wallet cap, as all doubloons gained during that time were legitimately earned and tracked. This brings these small number of players back to the same fair level playing field as everyone else, and they are then free to spend their legitimately earned doubloons in the stores to repurchase their items. We've worked through the root of the issue here, and it's unfortunately one that really only surfaced when we hit a large scale of players. But we'll be folding this learning back into our tooling and testing process to avoid this in the future. On to the Bilge Rats Weekender. So our first Weekender ran following April's update, and brought a new festival to the seas, along with the return of a fan favourite live event. We saw some great stories of crews enjoying the fireworks together, diving to shipwrecks to recover the new doubloon crates, having a relaxed fishing session, and taking on the new Bilge Rats challenges, when they could see what they were. We're looking forward to the Bilge Rats Weekender becoming part of our regular calendar of events, and will now return in June before locking in as one of our staples every month. But let's not pretend the event was all smooth sailing, as we did have some issues when this rolled out to live. The team have been working through the issues ahead of its return next month, so here's a quick roundup of the most common reports. The issue causing the blank checklist has now been sorted. Players reporting server performance issues during the weekend helped us track down and resolve the issue ahead of the next event. Issues preventing sirens from appearing, blocking progress through the secret shipment voyage have now been addressed, and crews finding themselves becoming stuck when diving to their voyages has also been resolved. With these issues now buttoned up ahead of our next Weekender, the team have also been working through the feedback and player data behind the scenes on doubloon earning rates. Now, it's quite clear that following the rebalance, we've firmly re-established doubloons as a sought-after currency once again. Yes, it needs some fine-tuning, but we're going to be making small changes and then checking to make sure we don't swing the economy back the other way. There's a careful balance we need to find to ensure it remains desirable. We will be making some changes though. So in our May update, pirates looking to earn doubloons outside of the Weekender will now find Reaper's chest rewards have been doubled, earning 20 doubloons each, and even more for Reaper emissaries. Doubloon pouches being found in ashen chests and other unintended doubloon sources have been removed. And then in our next Weekender, all players will now be given 5 of each Bilge Rats voyage, up from 3, giving them more access to those doubloon crates during the Weekender. And of course, more crates on the seas for rivals to steal. Then, looking ahead to Season 20, the new Season Pass will reward 425 doubloons when fully completed, up from 220 in Season 19. So these are the initial set of changes we'll be making on the doubloon side for the next few weekenders. We've seen all your suggestions of adding doubloon incentives to other areas like the Chest of Fortune or distributing crates into world events. But for now, we're going to let these changes settle in before assessing what further changes may be necessary. But thanks for all the great feedback so far. Another change we're going to be making is how we restock Duke and Larinna's markets. As we stepped through Insiders prior to launch, we made various changes to the Weekender's design to try and address the fair feedback we saw raised in Insiders. One change was to switch the markets to be restocked once at the start of the season and contain the full 3 months worth of stock for that season. This, however, hasn't landed well in live, and we feel has contributed to players feeling that the doubloon earn rates and wallet cap just don't match with the quantity and cost of items on offer, even though they were intended to be a season's worth of stock. Therefore, in Season 20, we're going to switch back to the original design, and both Duke and Larinna's markets will then restock every month rather than in one big drop at the start of the season. There are no planned changes to how long the items will remain in stock, so players will still have plenty of time to pick their favourites as the stores expand over time. Now, I can't really do a roundup of the Bilge Rats Weekender without talking about the feedback we've seen around the topic of FOMO. As we stepped through Insiders, we saw a wide range of feedback in this space, from the availability and cost of cosmetics through to the time expectations of players during the event. We actually made a load of changes during Insiders to begin addressing this feedback, but an area we've stuck with is that this event will run across a weekend. The weekends have always been our most popular playtimes, and with this event sparking interactions between crews, we want to lean into our peak playtimes to bring the most players together. And to answer the question directly, this event just wasn't designed to run for a full week, and trying to overextend it would see different issues surface. The feedback is fair though. For those who can't join us at weekends, they feel they're missing out here. What we'll be doing in response is making sure that our broader live event calendar can offer a variety of activities that can cater to different playstyles and time commitments. As we look ahead to Season 20, we've got a few new events arriving that will cater to more weekday play. And as our last ship standing mode returns, we'll be looking to open this up for a full week each month, so everyone can get a chance to dive into battle. Moving on to game health. I did a big update last month on our game health bash areas, so I won't go over them again here. But we do have some fixes and improvements arriving in this month's update. Improvements have gone in to how we keep barrels and players' inventories in sync, and we've seen from Insiders that this has addressed recent issues with players losing items when using barrels. Players should no longer find random silence balls in island barrels, and the availability of blunderbombs have been toned back down to intended levels. For those interested, the silence ball was an old prototype design from back in 2018 for a cursed cannonball which was intended to mute voice comms for affected players. It didn't get moved into production though, as we felt it could discourage players from using in-game comms to avoid it, and then in turn make the interactions with other crews much less interesting. While it accidentally slipped into the live game in its prototype form, it didn't have any effect on voice comms, but has now been removed as intended. Further improvements surrounding the harpoon and ship interactions, addressing a few edge cases where players were still getting stuck, unable to use items after being grappled off a cannon. And then some improvements to rowboats, allowing players to retrieve items placed on a rowboat without having to stand directly on it, meaning players can now more easily grab treasure when alongside them. The team have also been reviewing your feedback on the current treatment of the Hourglass battle bounds, and how difficult it is to see and hear when straying into the red. The team have made improvements to the audio to soften the experience, and then on the visual side, we're bringing back the grayscale screen tint. So now when sailing into the bounds, the sea will remain red to clearly signal the danger ahead, but but the rest of the image will now lose its colour while retaining a clear view of the fight, making it much easier to stay competitive while navigating the danger zone back to safety. These improvements will be used for the shrinking battle bounds across both Last Ship Standing and Hourglass. This and all the bug fixes are listed will be arriving in this month's update. Right, let's call it there. Catch you all next time.